Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Lieutenant General Todd T. Semonite, Commander of the United States Army Corps of Engineers, welcome to the Mississippi Valley Division's Change of Command ceremony. This morning we bid farewell to outgoing Commander Major General Michael C. Weir, and we welcome incoming Commander Major General Richard G. Kaiser. Special guests attending today's ceremony include Lieutenant General Todd Semonite and his wife Connie, Mr. Douglas Lamont, Mr. John Paul Woodley, Rear Admiral Paul Thomas, Mr. Eddie Belk, Sergeant Major Bradley Houston, First Lieutenant Richard Kaiser, Second Lieutenant Hannah Peck, Sergeant Major Retired Corb Ellsbury, Sergeant Major Bradley Houston, Rear Admiral Paul Thomas from the Coast Guard. We also have Mr. R.D. James, Mr. Tom Holden, Mr. James Beaudron, Lieutenant General Retired Robert Flowers, Major General Retired Don Riley, Major General Retired Thomas Sands, Brigadier General Retired Robert Creer, Brigadier General Retired Gene Witherspoon, Colonel Sam Calkins, Colonel Craig Baumgardner, Colonel Brian Sizemore, Colonel Mike DeRozier, Colonel Mike Clancy, and Colonel Brian Green. We also have Mayor Eric Simmons and Mayor Darrell Grinnell. Finally, we also have Father Matt Foley giving the invocation. We also have among us friends of both General Weir and General Kaiser to help celebrate this special occasion. Welcome to you all. Providing our music today is the Arsenal Brass of the U.S. Army Materiel Command's 389th Army Band, led by Sergeant First Class Terrence Brown. Also participating in today's ceremony are the soldiers from the 412th Theater Engineer Command. The non-commissioned officer in charge is Sergeant First Class Jeremy Reed. From time immemorial, armies throughout the world have conducted ceremonies to commemorate victory over an enemy, to honor their heroes, to celebrate special occasions, or to pay homage to their fallen comrades. These ceremonies add color and pageantry to the military life. In the United States, the foundation of our present ceremonies was laid by the Continental Army. Today's ceremony is a reflection of procedures practiced since the dawn of our nation. The ceremony that you're about to see includes arrival of official party, presentation of honors, honors to the nation, change of command, remarks, and then the conclusion. We hope you enjoy this historic event. We extend a special welcome this morning to Mrs. Deb Weir and Mrs. Heather Kaiser, who are being escorted to their seats by their park rangers, and they have already escorted them there. At this time, a bouquet of red roses is being presented to Mrs. Weir on behalf of the civilian and military employees of the division and their spouses. The presentation of a bouquet of roses has long been a tradition of the change of command ceremony. Red is the color of the heart and reflects the loving concern that Mrs. Weir has shown to the division over the past year. Mrs. Weir's roses are in full bloom, symbolizing the beauty and fulfillment of her time with us as First Lady of the division. To Heather Kaiser, we present a bouquet of yellow rosebuds to welcome her to the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of honors, the national anthem, and the invocation. The official party consists of the Chief of Engineers, Lieutenant General Todd T. Semonite, the outgoing Commander, Major General Michael C. Weir, the incoming Commander, Major General Richard G. Kaiser, and Civilian Representative Mr. Tom Holden, Senior Executive Service Member. Today, Lieutenant General Semonite has deferred honors to Major General Weir.
Present the colors. On.
Giving all praise and thanksgiving to you, Almighty God, we offer our thanksgiving for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Let us now pause in memory of those, our fallen brothers and sisters, because we promised we would never forget. Gracious and loving God, be with them and their families and those that mourn their passing. And praise and thanksgiving for the service of General Weir. We're so grateful for his family, for those who he's commanded, for his selfless service and admirable command. Be with him as he goes forward. Watch over his family and keep them strong and steadfast. We welcome General Kaiser. Be upon him, Lord, and guide him and lead him and those he will serve. May he hold fast to those who are in harm's way and bring them into safety. Remember those who are suffering now. with those storms that have brought forth pressure and undue difficulties. Be with those who are in the path of Irma. Be with those who are recovering from Harvey. And bless this celebration. May it bring us in truth and light and always hope in your most holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The change of command is a simple traditional event that is rich with symbolism and heritage. Key to the ceremony is the passing of the unit's colors. These colors represent not only the lineage and honors of the unit, but also the loyalty and unity of its soldiers and civilians. The colors are the commander's symbol of authority, representing his responsibilities to the organization. Wherever the commander is, there also are the colors. Throughout history, commanders ensured their unit flags were carried by one of their most trusted officers. This practice was used in the United States Army until 1813, when the regulations were changed and the flag was entrusted to color sergeants or sergeants major. Division commanders select one of their most trusted civilian advisors to perform the honors. Today, Mr. Tom Holden will have this honored role. The passing of the colors symbolizes the transfer of authority from the outgoing commander to the incoming commander. Because of the reverence the commanders feel towards the colors, it is kept over their left breast during the transfer. The passing of the colors demonstrates to the soldiers and civilians of the organization the old commander has passed the mantle of leadership to the new commander. With this, also passes the loyalty of the workforce to the new commander. And now, will the command group please take their positions? Mr. Tom Holden will present the colors to General Weir, who was entrusted with command of the Mississippi Valley Division on August 29, 2014. Mr. Holden is the division's regional business director. In today's ceremony, he represents all of the civilian members of the division and symbolizes the important military-civilian partnership that exists in the division. As Major General Weir passes the flag to Lieutenant General Semonite, Major General Weir symbolically relinquishes command. By direction of the President of the United States and under the authority of Army Regulation 600-20, the undersigned assumes command of the U.S. Army Engineer Division, Mississippi Valley, Vicksburg, Mississippi, effective 7 September 2017. Signed, Richard Kaiser, Major General, commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, the 54th Chief of Engineers, Lieutenant General Todd T. Semonite.
Boy, what a great day today. I look at this audience. I see so many faces out here. I can't thank you enough for attending. I'm a kind of a believer in an old adage that says that priorities are those things that get resourced. And sometimes in Washington, D.C., we can find money and we can find people, but sometimes the hardest priority we have, or the hardest resource, is time. And the fact that you are here, many of you have individual companies, you have different organizations you belong to, you flew in here on your own dime, and the fact that you came to be able to honor these two families in this division is a big, big deal. So I can't thank you enough for being here, and I think I speak on behalf of all the Weirs and the Kaisers to really say that this means an awful lot that you're here. I want to thank the 412th Engineer Command. I've been with you guys for a long time. You guys were always great, and I love the reserves and what you do for the regiment. Reverend Foley, I know you've been a friend of the Kaisers for a while, so thanks for being here. And it's always good to see that military drape on there. It looks really good, so thanks for being here. So listen, ceremonies like this just don't happen. A lot of hard work. the division staff. I mean, if you didn't go to the function last night, massive, great big farewell ceremony with table tents and all kinds of neat things all done today, all orchestrated. Sometimes we don't have enough depth in some of our divisions to do these, and it really consumes the division. So for everybody who made this happen, let's give the whole division staff a big round of applause. You know, and we say this right in the middle of a lot of things going on. I'll talk just for a minute about some of these storms. But we've got Harvey that we're still recovering from. This division has stepped up to be able to help us in Harvey. We've got people, commanders and deputies that are deployed today from NVD. They're out there doing great work. Rich Pennell, it's good to see you here. We needed a superstar over in one of the sister divisions, so we just called Rich. Evelyn let him go, and we flew him into the fight, and he just got back. And Irma's beating down our back fast, and it's coming pretty quick, and so right now we're all focused on taking care of Irma. But that's what the Corps does. The Corps is not about 43 districts and 9 divisions. The Corps is a family. And whether it's working on the battlefield, whether it's working for disaster response, or taking care of each other, that's what this division is stepping up to continue to help out. In addition to that, we still have soldiers and civilians deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we'll continue to have soldiers and civilians deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan for years to come. We will follow the guidance of our administration, but we have deployed over 11,000 civilians, a lot of them from this division, to be able to go into harm's way and do what our nation needs us to do. And that's what the Corps stands for, an expeditionary mindset that is willing to step up, whether it's civil works here in the Valley or whether it's taking care of the needs around the nation. And this division does it. So I would ask you is that we continue to honor these two great leaders here. Let's keep all those that have deployed, either as responders for the disasters or out doing great work in far-off lands. Keep them in our thoughts and our prayers as we go through the next couple weeks here. I look at the audience here. There's people who are my mentors, people I used to work for. We've got Mr. Woodley here, who served as the ASA. Mr. Lamont, who at some point was going to retire, and the administration asked him to stay on. And he is now serving as the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, a real hero who continues to be able to work some of the hard things in the Pentagon every day. And I look at the retired general officers, the SCSs. We have federal, state, local officials. The Mississippi River Commission members, I've really come to know them quite well, and I'm very, very honored to be able to continue to call them my friends and everything that they do to be able to work for this great valley. And then a lot of interagency, non-governmental organizations. The whole team is here. And I think that's what really means an awful lot to Mike and Rick, is that you're able to participate side by side with us. And I think a special message to our stakeholders here, this division and the Corps are absolutely committed to be able to continue to be able to have strong relationships with you and open communication. We're going to be transparent. We're going to tell you when we're doing things right. We're going to tell you when there's things we could be doing better. There's times where Mike Weir looked you in the eye and probably told you something you didn't want to know or didn't give you the right news. There's going to be times where Rick Kaiser's going to look you in the eye and say, I just can't get there, or we don't have enough money. But that doesn't mean that at any given point they're ever going to be able to do anything that's different from the vision of where you all want to go, because we are a team. We're a family, just like the Corps family. This division's a family. We all work side by side, and it's our aspiration to continue to be able to make sure we get you the resources, the authorities you need to continue to do everything out there to be able to make sure that we can continue to achieve that vision. So it's been a busy summer. We do change of commands. We normally do them in June and July. Rick just got back. I'll talk a little bit more on that in a minute. So this is our last big change of command. We're moving a lot of people around the Corps. I think I moved 5 division commanders, 9 senior executive services. We're moving people in Corps headquarters, and we're continuing to get the new team in place. This is the last one of those big ceremonies to be able to kind of go into the winter and be able to nug through things. So today, and I talked to a couple great people coming in, I said, you ever been to a change of command? They said, no, we never have. And I said, so we've been around for 242 years, okay? Our history and our lineage is a big deal to us in the Army. We still wear a lot of the same uniforms. We have a lot of the traditions. We have a lot of the same traits. Connie and I sat down with both of the families beforehand, little tiny session, and talked about the importance of today. But what we just saw here was a very, very significant ceremony. And we do this in 4 or 5 different ways. And I just want you to know, in case you've never been at it, what are some of those things that really signify this big transfer. It really shows, I think, the loyalty that the members of the division have back to their leaders, and it shows the admiration those leaders have back to the people that are sitting here working in the division. So there's a formal transfer authority. Right when I was holding the flag, Jason narrated the actual order. We have a document that says, effective immediately, Mike, you're not in charge, Rick, you got the ball, okay? Bottom line, it's a formal document, okay? And then we have this whole idea of today is really a passing of allegiance. You've known the Weirs, okay? You've known them for 3 years. So whether you're in the division or whether you're one of the great organizations that supports them, you kind of know how Mike's going to react. Some of you last night were very articulate on how he is able to shape different things, the way that he's very professional and very measured. But you know exactly how to shape Mike Weir and how to be able to read him pretty well. Those in the division staff kind of know, well, they didn't like it this way, he likes it that way. So you've come very, very comfortable with the Weirs. And now we're pulling them out. And we're going to give you somebody you don't know real well. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the people on the commission know the Kaisers pretty well, but the division staff might not know Rick that well. So there's a little bit of unknowns. So what this shows today is a transfer of loyalty. All of you that were loyal to the Weirs, I need you to transfer that loyalty to the Kaisers. That's what's going to happen, okay? And it's a given. And us military guys, whether you're a civilian or a soldier, it's just automatic. It goes by saying. And because somebody grabbed that flag and has that order, it means that they're in charge, and now they're going to set the conditions. And then there's this continuity of mission. Nothing's going to change. There's no crises. Our divisions in the Corps of Engineers are mainly run by our civilian workforce. They're the brains and the expertise of the Corps of Engineers. Us military guys come and go, okay? We're going to have another change of command here for the next 242 years. We're going to keep doing this. We've been around for a long time. The military guys are just a person in the seat. But the long-term mission, the continuity of what we do for this nation is done by our civilian experts. So I don't want you to worry about things. We're steady in the saddle. All things remain in effect. All the regular processes are going to keep going, and all the initiatives that Mike did are all going to be transferred. And the new guy normally comes in and continues to keep everything going and just tries to build on where the old guy left. But here's the biggest single thing that we did today, and you might not have known it, but we actually take that flag and we hand it to the new guy. Now, I don't know, Mike, how much a flag weighs, maybe 20 pounds, something like that, okay? But when the commander takes that flag and transfers it, it's a big deal. Because we have a very, very simple adage in our military. The commander is responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen. It's pretty easy to give him an award for everything that happens, but don't forget, we also hold them accountable when something doesn't go right. So when Mike gave that flag away, he basically was relieved of that accountability. But if you ask Rick Kaiser how much that flag weighed, it's hundreds of pounds. Because with that goes, who's taking care of the families of the soldiers you have deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan today? Who's taking care of them? Who's accountable for the safety? Who's ensuring the navigation on this river? Who's making sure you're doing things to be able to take care of the nation's economy and to be able to transform our civil works and to do disaster response? You own that entire problem, Rick, and with that comes an unbelievable responsibility you have not just to the nation, but to the families and the stakeholders. So it's a big, big deal taking that command. And they don't get paid any extra money. There's no command stipend we give them when they get into command. They don't get a big extra check. It's just regular, normal stuff. But being a commander of a unit is a big, big responsibility, and it's something that we all take very, very serious. And that's why we make a big ceremony to be able to make sure you all know how important we think that is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these two leaders. A lot of times in change of commands, you always talk about the guy going out, and that's kind of normally 7 or 8 minutes, and you talk about the new person coming in. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk about both of them simultaneously, okay? And I always like to have like kind of a static display, somebody in the audience I can look to, so I'm actually thinking I'm talking to a real person, okay? So RJ, you're the guy I'm talking to today, all right? Okay? And what's really, really cool about you is you're an infantry lieutenant, okay? All right? So sometimes with us senior leaders, you know, we have somebody might say, hey, if I ever aspired to be a senior leader, forget about being a general or a sergeant major, but if you ever wanted to be a more senior leader in the military, what are those attributes that you would need to be a real senior leader? So I'm going to talk to you about the 5 different attributes that I really respect in people. We had a senior leader in the Army several years ago who kind of said we want our military officers to be pentathletes. Pentathletes means you got to be good at 5 things, okay? So I'm just kind of walk you through what these two represent when I look at somebody that is worthy of commanding a division so powerful and as important as the Mississippi Valley Division. We made a decision a long time ago that we want our engineers to be multifunctional. They have to stretch the entire breadth and depth of the battlefield, anywhere from being in the middle of Fallujah to walk the halls of the Pentagon to be able to succeed in Congress. And so the first dynamic that both of these guys have is they're proven tactical leaders. They came up as platoon leaders, company commanders. You guys all have programs, you have their bios. I'm not going to go over that. But several years of serving on the battlefield to continue to be able to take care of the tactical side. You don't know it, but we have 90,000 engineers in the Engineer Regiment. 25% are reservists, 50% are National Guard, 25% are active duty. But the only way that they're going to get to be a senior leader is that they understand what it's like to be on the ground. They understand the life of a private. They understand the life of a second lieutenant. They understand what's called mission command. Give me the mission, give me what the constraints are, and then get out of my way and let me go do my thing. These two guys, Kaiser, Weir, tactical leaders, great people. Second big dimension we look at in the Corps of Engineers is I need people that have technical expertise. There's no requirement to have a degree, an engineer degree, to command an engineer division, okay? But at some given point, if they're going to sit there with the depth and breadth of experts that are in this division, PEs and PMPs and all the other people that the civilian technical experts, they've got to understand what they're talking about. If they're going to head with a contractor, if they're trying to figure out how to work the flow regimes on the Mississippi River, they've got to have some knowledge on that. And that's what both of these officers bring. Mike is a registered professional engineer in Virginia, a master's degree from University of Texas at Austin in civil. He's got a bachelor's in civil. Rick's exactly the same way. Bachelor's degree in civil from Marquette, master's from University of Missouri. They come to the fight, not just with that technical background, the tactical background I talked about first, but that second big dimension that they bring is that they are engineers. They stand for something. They have the ability and the authority to be able to make engineering decisions. We can't stand on political issues, and we can't make rash decisions. We have to be based in science and engineering to do the right thing for this nation, regardless of whatever our political aspiration has to be, and that's what these two leaders bring to the fight. Mike Weir, Rick Kaiser, technical engineers. So what's that third dimension? And this is very, very unusual. If you were to go, RJ, to an infantry 2-star who's running a division, he gets most of his money out of the Pentagon, he gets his force structure out of the Pentagon. It's relatively simple to be able to have a large organization when all those resources are out there. These guys are basically running very large businesses. They have to be enterprise executives. They are running a reimbursable organization for the most part. They have to be able to understand what's Congress going to appropriate them, what are their requirements out there, and how do they somehow shape a very, very large organization. We have cells in this division that are worried about what do we do to be able to make sure our workforce is in balance. How do we project what we're going to need to do 5 or 10 years from now? How do we make sure we're keeping all of these different dimensions of a water system in check? And how do you somehow be able to articulate that? How can you continue to keep those relationships that make an enterprise so important to be able to continue to talk to our taxpayers, our stakeholders, and to our elected officials? So Kaiser, Weir, enterprise executives. I mean, these guys are running, in essence, Fortune 500 companies. That level of complexity, when you think of being like a CEO of a very, very complex organization, they have to be able to be there and to be able to be responsible for doing that. And then there's a fourth dimension, RJ, that is one that they could have those first three, but one that is very, very valuable to me. They have to go to combat and they have to succeed. They have to go and take our soldiers and our civilians into war to be able to do their mission, to be able to fight our nation's wars and win our nation's wars, and then bring everybody back home alive. And these two guys have been experts at it. I first met Mike in the middle of Fallujah back in 2003 when he was in with 82nd Airborne, and he's continued to go and serve in Afghanistan as one of the senior engineers in 2013-2014 period. Somebody who can come out of the United States as an engineer, but go right back in and to be able to operate with the most senior leaders in our nation and to be able to continue to give them advice as to how to shape strategic engagements in some of these very, very complex areas. And Rick Kaiser is the same thing, a very, very successful leader in Iraq and Afghanistan as a battalion and brigade commander, but has just returned about a month ago from a very, very complicated job, not an engineer job, but he was in charge of a $5.4 billion project to be able to train hundreds of thousands of Afghan police and Afghan army people. And it was where he had a 4-star that was counting on him to be able to make sure that we're setting the conditions for the United States to be able to depart Afghanistan, while at the same time making sure that our investments in there are honored and we continue to do the right thing for the Afghan people. These are combat heroes, fourth dimension of what I put very, very high on my list. Somebody who has all of the tactical expertise, all of the technical expertise, somebody who understands how to run an enterprise, but when asked can go to war and do the right thing. That's what they bring to the fight. And what's the last dimension? Something you don't have to worry about, RJ, for a while, but they have to be a strategic leader. They have to be able to shape and implement economic policy and to be able to take care of advising the most senior leaders in this nation of national security issues. And they're called upon many times, whether it's by a congressman, by a different commission, whether they're testifying, to be able to help shape where this nation needs to go. We cannot sit in Mississippi Valley and think that we're in a rice bowl and everything revolves around this. They've got to continue to look at the depth of the Civil Works program. They've got to look at the ramifications back to energizing the economy. You obviously got to look at disaster risk, but they've got to be strategic leaders who can help advise us in D.C. of how to be able to make sure they set the right condition. These are not just regular, normal 2-star generals that are cruising around an infantry and armor division. These are engineered general officers who have been hand-selected to command the most complicated division, I would say, in the United States Army. And so, Mike, as you are walking out the door, you have done this to an unbelievable level, and I have absolutely no doubt knowing that Rick Kaiser is going to be able to fall right back in your shoes and be able to make this happen. I have 26 engineer general officers in a regiment. I handpicked Rick Kaiser to come here out of all 26. He's the best I've got, okay? And I also needed a new deputy, so I had 26 guys I could have taken to Washington, D.C. I handpicked Mike Weir to come to Washington, D.C. I'm in this job for 3 more years. I am not going to pick a deputy that's going to be at risk and who's not going to help me make things happen in the Corps of Engineers. So when I go out and get the choice to pick one, I'm picking the absolute best. I picked the best, and Mike Weir is going to do a great job in D.C. I'm not going to go on about a lot of the accomplishments here. I do want to talk a little bit about, Mike's done an awful lot. I know that there's a lot of things that the commission knows he's done, and I'm sure that he'll talk a little bit more about that. I do want to end a little bit, though, on talking about these families. This is a family, whether it's the DOD family, the Army family, the Corps of Engineer family, or the Mississippi Valley Division family. And nobody could do this alone, and these 2 leaders up here could not do this. You look at all these medals on their chest, you know, we just pinned another medal on Mike. They've got a bunch of stripes on their arms. These guys are convinced they're superstar war heroes, and I just made them feel a lot better probably now that they're, you know, they think they're great. But I'm telling you, these guys would not be here if it wasn't for their spouses and their families. So I'm going to divert for a minute and just talk about both of these. So first of all, the Weirs, 2 great kids. I hate to say it, and sometimes leaders have to be able to say when they don't understand. I don't even know what these degrees they're getting are, okay? Neurobiology and archaeology, the same person getting both degrees. That blows my mind. I don't know what your daughter's going to do, but she sounds like a wizard, okay? Unbelievable, okay? She's at Georgetown, finishing law school. Chuck's going to be a mechanical engineer. And then Deb is she's the real hero here. We gave her a nice award upstairs. Deb and Mike were college sweethearts. They met at the University of Santa Clara. Deb apparently was the way that my notes say here, a rules-loving resident assistant. And Mike apparently was the rule breaker, okay? So you had to kind of coach and mentor him through all the way back then to get him back in the box, I guess. Married in California near NTC. She's got a master's degree in political science, and the degree has served her very, very well, navigating through all the different things that the family's done all over the world. She's been a very, very consistent and stalwart leader in our family readiness group. For those that might not know, We don't pay our service members if their families step up. They're volunteers, but we could not do taking care of families without the spouses and the spouses leading in family readiness. It's something that we do in the Corps. I wish we could do it even better, but it's something that we try to take care of our soldiers and our civilians to make sure their families are taken care of when the service member goes in harm's way. Reads books for visually impaired people. Mike said that Deb is the best partner he could have ever hoped for, and the bottom line is the Weirs have suffered to a degree as a family because Mike chose the military career as a profession. And I'll talk more about that, but the bottom line is he has moved them all around the world. Those kids have had to go to schools. They probably had to leave. They were like, 2 years in one football team, thought they're going to move up into a great position. All of a sudden, Dad said, we're moving somewhere else. Dad wasn't there for soccer games or Boy Scout events and all the other kind of stuff. But the Weir family has paid a big price to be able to have Mike on this stage today and to Mike to be able to continue to keep going. Let's give a big round of applause for the Weirs. And just like I compared the two officers on the stage, these families are unbelievably parallel, okay? So Heather is exactly the same, two great sons, RJ and Patrick. So Patrick is on a screen. Heather, just turn up and turn that around real quick. If you turn it around, can they see him? So there's Patrick we're high tech here, okay? So Patrick is on the screen watching his dad go in here, doing a great job. Is in his senior year at Mount St. Mary's in Maryland. RJ's an infantry officer doing a great job down in a parachute regiment, Op 4. Just came out of West Point here a couple years ago. And then Heather and Rick met on a blind date, apparently set up by your first platoon sergeant. Rick said that his platoon sergeant knew he would fall in love with Heather, and he was right. The couple had been married for 25 years. Heather's volunteered with the Family Readiness Group at every level and is an ardent supporter of church activities. So let's give the Kaisers a big round of applause. So these guys are great. I love them, okay? And they're going to do a great job, and you're going to do a great job in D.C., and you're going to do a great job here, and I don't have any problems with you guys, okay? I want to talk about these two ladies for a minute, okay? So I kind of gave you the one over the world view. I mean, so they've got to be able to figure out how to keep the home going, how do you take care of those kids, and all the other stuff. But anybody that's even been around the Corps or deployments, you can't even possibly imagine what it's like for a spouse to be able to commit your life to your service member and to be able to stand by, have your kids get moved around, your families get moved around. Some of them, I think Connie and I moved 24 times. You guys have moved an awful lot, and yet you continue to step up every time we ask you. So regardless of how many ribbons we pin on these guys' chests and how many stripes we sew on their sleeves, the heroes of today are our families and our spouses. And it's not just the military, the civilians, whether we have SES spouses here that step up. Your husbands have deployed just as well. And I can't envision a harder job than to put your husband in the car with a bunch of duffel bags, two little kids in the back seat, drive them to an airport, and put them on an airplane to go to Iraq and Afghanistan to a combat zone and not know if they're ever going to come back. Now think about the unbelievable resilience it takes of a military spouse to be able to do that. And that's what these ladies stand for. And it's representative of all of those spouses and those families we have in the Corps of Engineers. So I'm not going to go on, but you are not just getting a great general, okay? You're getting a great spouse, you're getting a family, and it's part of the NVD team. And for all of our stakeholders, I want you to embrace them. Come to the picnics, come to the meetings. There's going to be times we upset you. There's going to be times you think we should be doing something different. But just know that this family is going to stand with your family in NVD. And the bottom line is, these two spouses are my heroes. Let's give them another big round of applause. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to talk to the NVD employees out here. So you were representative of all those employees, Tom, when you did this. This is really about something that's so much bigger than this day. We in the Corps of Engineers have been around for 242 years. And I will tell you as the senior guy, I'm accountable for everything that goes wrong, and I still feel we've got a couple more rungs to go on the bar. We are not where we need to be. We are fighting very, very hard now, Mr. Lamont and I, to figure out how to change some of the rules in OMB to be able to make our money go to where we think there's the right place to put money. We're trying to streamline the Corps of Engineers. Our big themes lately are delegate, empower, power down, continue to let the decisions be made at the right levels where there's the right amount of competency and capacity to be able to continue to be able to allow districts and divisions to do the right thing. That's what we owe you in this division. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you have an unbelievable capability here to take care of this river, but it really is about energizing the economy to continue to be able to take care of disaster response, whether it's flood control, whether it's navigation, and to be able to keep this great river system running. But these employees are not just only going to serve in this division. They're going to go to Iraq, they're going to go to Afghanistan, if they're going to go to Irma tomorrow, if they're going to continue working Harvey, I could not be prouder of our Corps of Engineer employees. And at the end of the day, it's all about this country. It's about that flag right there, and somebody has to stand up to make sure we're doing the right thing for this country. And I don't care if we get beat every single day in the newspaper, and I don't really care whether we get accolades or we get complaints, but we're going to continue to come to work every single day because it's the right thing to do for this nation, and the Corps is all in. Thanks an awful lot, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, the outgoing commander of the Mississippi Valley Division and president of the Mississippi River Commission, Major General Michael C. Weir.
Chief, thank you very much for your opening remarks and the comments. What a history that you present of the Corps. And the reality is there are so many global demands that are taking place on your schedule. It is a truly honor to have you and Connie here. So thank you. It means a lot to the MVD family and, of course, of all our partners that are here with us. The reality is, to get the job done, no matter which direction, whether it be east or west with hurricanes, it really does take a team that is able to flex, and you've got those skills here. So thank you very much. It's really unclear what 2 hurricanes will do, whether it be to the west with Harvey or to the east with Irma, and some would probably maybe call it the Weir-Kaiser wedge. Somehow, we have diverted these hurricanes to the left and the right, but Paul Lowen out there in the Southwest Division is getting all we can give him. And we really appreciate, of course, Rich coming back home, but it's a team effort, and that's the beauty of this division, to be able to use the talent wherever it's needed. I'm a firm believer that it exists. We just have to unleash it, and I couldn't be more proud. And with Diana Holland in the South Atlantic Division, again, the next one, whenever that hits, she's going to have the team that she needs, and that all the great Americans, no matter where they are in the Corps, power people, debris, you name it, with our partners are going to be there. So it's an unbelievable organization that can do that. There are about 54 folks deployed from the division between those 2 hurricanes and about 15 or so in Afghanistan and Iraq, but they keep going. Again, I want to thank the elected officials that are here. Really, it takes the moral courage to lead in our nation's elected system, the federal, state, and local leaders that make it happen, and of course the Mississippi River Commission that connects that with the Corps of Engineers. It's unmatched. Friends, family of the Corps, and of course the alumni that are here today as well. We could not be more lucky to be here to honor this team that you're part of and that Rick and I have the pleasure to command. So I've got a moment, if you will, for open confessions. Father Matt, let me know if this counts. So back in maybe it was the early 90s, 93, 94, you know, I'm at grad school, actually, at the University of Texas. Just finished a great tour at Fort Bragg, going to grad school. And it was the Corps of Engineers that was paying for that grad school, but I didn't quite make that connection yet. I just knew I was going to grad school. And I'm watching on TV, and I see General Flowers, you know, with this big flood behind him. I'm going to go, what the heck is that about? Click. I didn't even think twice. I just said, I'm never going to see that again. But it was just an eye-opener, and I will never forget General Flowers again. The ability to go from Bragg to the schoolhouse to this division and to really show us the way to go. And it's been a true honor to learn about what the Corps does and how we work with this river. Let me know, Father Matt, if that works. But it is really an opportunity to learn. Deborah, I can't thank you enough, of course. I often don't just call her by her formal name. It's usually her mom that says that. But Deb, my love, who's usually always thinking the next step forward where I'm going to make a mistake or suggest very kindly, pushy but patient, and polite. I just couldn't ask for a better partner in life. I heard this example in another change of command, so I'm just going to use it again. But if you think of all the things I get to do with this great team, whether it be on the motor vessel, in the house that we were able to entertain the team in, and of course the ability to fly where you need to go in the plane, you could call it, like dancing like Fred Astaire, but there's a Ginger Rogers back there that is doing it all backwards in high heels and making it happen every time. So just another round of applause for Deborah. And I do want to thank Heather for reminding me to make sure I thank my spouse up front. Because it's a team effort. And if I'm getting a little ahead, but Rick and Heather, I can't just be more happy to have this opportunity. Once I realized there was a twin brother out there with you, and I realized that in Battalion Command we shared similar changes with transformation, and I got some good coaching, and when I went up to Fort Drum, I just really appreciate that opportunity. And of course, to watch it brag with the 20th while I was here at the Vicksburg District, and then to come together again like this is really unimaginable. But again, that MVD family will welcome both of us, and has done well in training us and making us get to where we need to be to lead and unleash that potential. I think it was General Van Antwerp that had this great story. If you'd get in the backseat of your car after command, no one's going to be driving it for you. So I realized I've got to go through that transition. And I know I talked to Eddie Belk earlier about this, and I told the commission I'd be calling back. But it really is an honor just to have the opportunity to think through and reflect on what we've done for the past 3 years. I really do believe that our national security is absolutely tied to our Civil Works mission. And it came together in December of 2015. We had a great opportunity to host General Milley, our Chief of Staff of the Army, after he had cut the ribbon in the World War II Museum at the Road to Tokyo. That's an exhibit that just tells a great story in the Pacific. And of course, after that ceremony, and if you can imagine this, about 200 living veterans still, multiple Medal of Honor recipients, we had 1 hour to explain our Civil Works mission right after that. And I was not sure how that was going to happen, because you can imagine the patriotic, the emotional level, and then I was taking a lot of notes because I figured this is going to be really worth understanding. But as soon as that was over, I said, I can't do this except use his own 6 imperatives, if you will, on what this nation does with civil work. So I made a little bit of a bet with him. I'd worked with him in Afghanistan, and I said, Chief, I can explain this mission to the 6 imperatives you just said. And of course, he looked at me and said, I doubt it. How can you do that? I said, Chief, look, we have to remain vigilant. That was the first thing he said. There is no doubt readiness is our Army's #1 priority, and this division in the Corps of Engineers is in fact vigilant. And of course, we don't know the direction that the threat will come. That was the second imperative. You can tell whether it be Harvey, Irma, and that's just hurricanes. We're not even talking about a flood that would come down the river, or a tornado. And these are just natural disasters. But what this team does with those natural disasters is absolutely being prepared from no matter what direction they actually come. And the third one is we cannot do this alone. In General Milley's words, we cannot secure the world alone. We absolutely rely upon our allies in other countries. And in fact, we're doing that in this division, whether it be a trip to the Mekong River. There is a Mekong River Commission that is a sister organization, if you will, with the Mississippi River Commission. We partner with Brazil. There's just a number of the Chinese, a number of other countries that we are sharing in this vision of what you'd call water security around the globe. So there's no doubt we can't do it alone. And of course, joint forces are required. Whether it may not be the Navy, but in fact the Coast Guard and the other forces, the EPA, the Fish and Wildlife, all the federal family needs to come to bear, and we rely heavily upon them. The fifth item, or the fifth imperative, is to have boots on the ground. You could ask any levy president that gets his boots muddy in a flood fight, and the ability to understand, first of all, after many of inspections before that flood, what's actually happening on the ground. We rely upon that local knowledge to really interpret what's happening. We can do the engineering, we can inspect the work that's been done, but it is those levy districts that make it happen. And it's a proud partnership that we share. And the sixth item, the sixth imperative, if you will, was that it requires a national will, a national commitment. And I think if I would just use one example recently with the infrastructure initiative from the administration, there is no doubt that we're going to figure this out. We have to. I mean, the world is counting upon us. And as General Miller would say, we don't have time to wait. We have got to lean forward into this. Again, a real honor to have that opportunity just to connect those missions in that greater sense. And again, Chief, we know within our what we call our campaign plan, with our 4 goals, if you will, that we are well nested with those imperatives. That national security is our goal number 1. And again, the deployments that were mentioned, the engagements that take place, these are all related to our national security. And it happens in our hometown as well. And that's where we have water resource solutions. Our second goal is to deliver on those, to preempt and to anticipate the storms that we'll experience, or the events, in this case with our division, from Canada all the way to the Gulf. The third goal, of course, is to reduce those risks to disaster. That takes a lot of partnership. And General Riley, I can't thank you enough for the ability to stair-step that risk and show where it can be influenced, whether it be zoning, insurance, you name it. But we're not alone in that process to reduce disaster risk. And of course, preparing for tomorrow. We all enjoy families that we have been part of. But this is a family that we're also part of, to continue to grow and coach those that are going to follow us, and to admire those that have gone before us. I did notice with the alumni, we had them over to the Everest House. This is the house that was purchased in 1985 by the Corps. Again, General Sands, just a great vision to be able to have that view of the river for a commander. But to have those 5 commanders that joined us again, I noticed that alumni never really go away. And that's a good thing, because I've invited myself back to Rick's house in the next few years. But we are, if I could just go back to the purpose here, we certainly are a maritime nation. And in fact, even General Milley, as he described the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway, recognized the connection to World War II and the other things that we've done. But there are certainly challenges. We, in fact, have got to admire and have to invest in the hard-fought ground earned by our forefathers. The investments made is not an easy thing. It takes financial and personal sacrifice. We have certainly benefited from those investments. There is no doubt that our nation can do things that no other nation can because of their vision that we enjoy today. The economic prosperity, the standard of living, the quality of life, really the ability to respond to disasters, to pick people off their roof with a incredible number of Coast Guard assets is just an amazing feat. It is truly something that we enjoy as a nation. And of course, reliable ports and harbors and channels are what connect us. And as those are threatened, in this case by a hurricane or a flood, we've got to maintain those. And if you would ask yourself, why live in Houston? The fact is, this nation demands a reliable quality of life where the economic connection is made. You could use New Orleans as an example, with energy, with the environment, and navigation. It is just where we have to make it work. But we're not alone, as I said. The people of the Alluvial Valley do drive our prosperity and their productivity. And there is no doubt that the partnership that's represented by the Mississippi River Commission and their members make it happen. Again, the national security that's connected to our Civil Works mission cannot be underestimated. But it really is the people that matter. So in closing, I would just like to highlight those that do get it done, whether it be the park rangers, the levees that are inspected by engineers, even our regulators within the permitting process, from deckhands to pilots. These motor vessels that are getting the work done on the river don't happen by themselves. It's in fact the people that we grow and mentor and bring up the ranks. I could go on and on about how we have biologists, accountants, you name it, within the Corps of Engineers, lockmasters, but all these skill sets, and in fact over half the people that have deployed to Harvey and Irma at the moment are technical experts. Our H&H folks that understand where the water is going. Our lockmasters can help work with the locks at the other lakes that are being regulated. It is truly an amazing set of skill sets that we, Rick and I, get to have a chance to lead with the leadership that is here and represented. So I can work through the engineering with the background I have, but what truly amazes me is our history. And I'll just reference again in 1879, when the Mississippi River Commission was formed through an act of Congress, that we knew the Corps needed that partnership. So in closing, Rick, the partnership we've enjoyed has been phenomenal. our families. It's just a real opportunity to be thankful for where we've come from, the parents that are here. And I would just like to highlight, again, my own children are watching this on video as well, on the FaceTime, Facebook. You know, I'm not smart enough, but they coach me. So Chuck and Rachel, again, we don't often talk about, you know, where they have gone and how far they're going, but they, in fact, are certainly challenging us. Again, both somehow getting into Harvard and then going on to law school. I cannot believe what they're doing. It's just a real honor. And my own parents, you know, we talked about the challenge of dropping off families when your dad is going to deploy. So my mom and dad are out there too, literally 89 and 88 years old each. The story that I always like to hear with 7 kids, I'm number 6, is when my mother, upon dropping my father at the airport to go to Vietnam, said, "If you don't come back, you're a coward." Because she knew, and he knew, that the challenge of those young 7 kids, you know, lay in the balance. But through a great nation, and of course, all the NCOs and the soldiers that made it happen, no matter what the conflict was, it works. So again, to my own parents, to my own kids, and to my expanded family here, I just want to say thank you. And again, Rick, I feel like a paratrooper in the door with a stalled exit, but I will jump and get out of the way and gladly hand it over to you, as I've done. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of the Mississippi Valley Division, Major General Richard Kaiser.
Well, thank you. So as the new guy, I'm only allotted 4 sheets of paper because I need to keep it brief. But I do want to welcome everybody. Today is a very special day, and I'm very cognizant of all those who are suffering right now from Harvey and from Irma that's barreling down upon us. But despite that, I look out and I see what a beautiful day it is today. You know, especially here in Mississippi, beautiful sunshine, lack of humidity. You know, I couldn't ask for more, especially coming out of Afghanistan. I appreciate today. So the good Lord has given us a great day. So Chief, the 54th Chief of Engineers, thank you for this. Sergeant Major Houston, fellow general officers, command sergeant majors, industry leaders, Mr. Lamont, thank you so much for being here. Your presence does us all well. Distinguished guests, and I'll come back to the Mississippi River Commission and the Honorable R.D. James. My mission is simple. I have to thank, you know, three things. You know, I'm going to thank God, I'm going to thank my family, and I'm going to thank the Army, and I'm going to be gone. So first, I do want to thank God for a few things. For number one, for all the blessings that He's given us. And I look at my family, and I could see nothing more clear than how blessed I have been. Second thing I want to be very thankful for is coming back. You know, I got to do great things in Afghanistan, you know, but you kind of miss your family. It's like the chief said, if you could bring the family over, I'd stay there a little bit longer because we were doing great things. But have no doubt, it was a dangerous place, and I am happy to be home back in America. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for the opportunity to serve here. And it's not something I earned, but it's a blessing that's been given to me. So I wanted to thank God for all those things. Now, second, I must thank my family, and so I purposely put it in here so I don't forget. So for 27 years, my beautiful wife, Heather, has encouraged me, given me strength, but I think, most importantly, she's kept me grounded and humble. She's pretty good at doing that, and I deserve it, and she does well. So thank you. I love you. And I want to thank my boys who are, you know, they're just our absolute joy. You know, RJ came in from Fort Polk, Louisiana, so Mom's happy because he's close. And he brought with him his and our favorite sweetheart, so Hannah, thanks for coming. Patrick, who's online, he's at Mount St. Mary's University, but have no doubt that's where he needs to be right now. Okay, so you better go back and study when we're done here. But you guys make us proud, so thanks. And for my family who can't be here today, I want to thank them as well. So I thank God, I thank my family, now I got to thank the Army. And this is where it gets complicated always. But you know, the Army is my other family, and it has been for 30 years now. And it was the Army that introduced us to some very, very special people. All right, so to our very special friends who came from a long way, you know, I want to publicly thank you for coming here. You didn't have to come, but the fact that you did says so much. So I want to thank Father Matt, fellow paratrooper, served together in the 82nd Airborne Division, deployed multiple times. Thank you for being here. Came in from Chicago. John and Donna Werner, who to this day denies that they set Heather and I up, but he did. And I thank him every day. Came in from Texas. Dan and Shannon Peterson came in from Missouri. Vern and Jamie Beatty came in from Florida. I think they wanted to come. Rich and Joanne Babbitt came in from New York. Joe and Marilyn McLaughlin, my singing buddy, from New York. Corb and Kelly Ellsbury came in from Louisiana. And Cheryl Boone, who was with us in Germany, came in from Alabama. It just means a lot that you're here. But it was the Army that introduced us to each other. So thank you for that. I want to thank my special Army mentors who really taught me and Heather what right looks like in terms of the Army and leadership at a high level. So I want to thank Generals Lloyd and Charlene Austin, who is just a special leader of character. I need to thank General Deb and Dan and Deb Allen for all that they've taught me and Heather. And my good friend who's still in Afghanistan, General Mick Nicholson, who I've served with multiple times. I want to thank the engineer leaders who have really invested significant time in my development. Because if you ask John Werner, 30 years ago today, he said, there's no way Kaiser's going to get there. But I had some very special friends who honed us up along the way, and I want to say thanks for that. So our 50th Chief of Engineers, General Bob and Linda Flowers. So General Flowers tried to teach me how to be a swan when I worked for him, but I think I'm still an ugly duckling, but I'm working on it. So thank you for your friendship, mentorship, and leadership. I want to thank General Hans and Deb Van Winkle. Brought us to Desert Storm and back, and has been a great friend and mentor ever since. And I want to thank General Don and Roz Riley. Became friends at Fort Leonard Wood, an even closer bond at Fort Drum, where we shared a long deployment together. So thanks for being here. This is it's great. So I apologize, because I know I left out many, many people, as is the case. But just know you're all in my hearts. I also want to say thanks to the fellow members of the Mississippi River Commission, and especially the Honorable R.D. James, who is here representing. It's not, I was a member of the commission, so when I look at the audience, I know many of the team already. And for me, it's almost like coming home when I look at all the faces out here. So thank you, R.D., for being here. I look forward to meetings in Washington next week with you as well. To the MVD team, I'm very proud to be a member of. Thanks for letting me be a part of the team. So you've heard, Mike talk about this, but we worked very close. When I was up in Cincinnati with the Great Lakes and Ohio River Division, our teams were almost like one, especially, Joey and the water management teams, talking every day. So that's why I said, for me, it's like coming home. And I could not be more proud than to work with this team of professionals. Because every day that I was either on the boat or working a flood and holding back at Kentucky and Barkley, I saw the expertise and professionalism, and you heard the chief talk about it, how the civilians are the strength of the Corps. That is absolutely true. So for me, it's coming home. So to our industry partners, and I see you out there, and I love working with you. I'm going to tell you everybody right now, to our partners, to our fellow American citizens, to everybody who lives on, makes a home near or earns their living on the mighty Mississippi River and her tributaries, I look forward to working together with you as together we seek and we will find the solutions to the nation's toughest engineering challenges. That is my charter to you. So may God continue to bless America, building strong Essayons.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the retiring of the colors and remain standing for the playing of the Engineer Regimental March, the Army Song, and the departure of the official party. The words are located on the back of your program. On behalf of the Chief of Engineers, Lieutenant General Todd T. Semonite, thank you for your attendance today at today's change of command ceremony. The receiving line will begin with Major General Mrs. Weir here in the front of the stage. Then continuing to your right, my left, you can greet the new division commander, Major General Rick Kaiser and Heather Kaiser along the wall to my left. Please join us for refreshments at the back of the room. Thanks again for attending today's ceremony.